Have you ever had a neighbor from hell? Well, my story involves an HOA president who took things to a whole new level. But let's just say, she picked the wrong homeowner to mess with. It all started last fall. I live in a community with some pretty harsh winters, so being prepared isn't just a good idea, it's a necessity. I spent weeks building up my winter stockpile. I'm talking non-perishable food, bottled water, firewood, neatly stacked, a backup generator, the whole 9 yards. I made sure everything was stored discreetly on my property, tucked away behind my garage, completely out of sight from the street and not violating any obvious rules. I felt a real sense of security, knowing my family would be safe and warm, no matter what winter threw at us. Then came Karen. And yes, her real name was Karen, which felt almost too perfect. She was our newly elected HOA president, and she seemed to have a personal mission to make everyone's life miserable. She'd patrol the neighborhood with a clipboard and a ruler, measuring grass height and issuing fines for mismatched trash cans. One sunny afternoon, she appeared at my door. She had this smug look on her face as she handed me a notice. It claimed my unapproved storage structure and accumulation of materials was a violation. I tried to be reasonable. I invited her to see the stockpile. Karen, I said, this is just firewood and emergency supplies. It's behind my house, invisible to everyone. We get snowed in here. This is for safety, she just scoffed, saying, rules are rules. It's an eyesore and a fire hazard. She gave me 48 hours to remove everything, or the HOA would do it for me and bill me for the cost. I knew she was just flexing her newfound power. There was nothing in the HOA bylaws that specifically prohibited what I was doing. I wrote a formal appeal, citing the vagueness of the rule and the safety aspect, but I never heard back. 2 days later, I came home from work to a scene of absolute destruction. My neatly stacked firewood was scattered across my yard, some of it splintered and broken. My boxes of supplies were ripped open, their contents strewn everywhere. My water barrels were overturned and empty. It was a disaster zone. And standing there, watching a landscaping crew toss the last of my hard work into a wood chipper, was Karen, smiling. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just enforcing a rule. This was malicious. This was personal. The cost of the damage was in the thousands, not to mention the cleanup fee I was sure to receive. That night, I was furious. I couldn't sleep. I wanted revenge, but I wanted it to be smart, legal, and devastating. I started digging. I pulled out all the paperwork from when I bought the house years before the current HOA was even fully established. I went through the original property deeds, the land surveys, the local county records, everything. I spent hours online cross-referencing plat maps and historical documents. I was looking for any loophole, any forgotten clause, any piece of leverage I could find. And then, in the dusty archives of the county clerk's office, I found it. The golden ticket. A document from the late 1800s. It was an original water rights deed tied directly to my specific parcel of land. When the area was first developed, my property included the primary well and spring that fed the entire valley. The original owner had sold off the surrounding land over the decades but had legally retained the exclusive water rights. Those rights were passed down with the property title, from owner to owner, and now they belonged to me. The community, including all the HOA common areas, the manicured lawns, the decorative fountains, the community pool, they were all being supplied by my water. For decades, nobody had realized it. The utility company just managed the infrastructure, but the legal right to the water source itself was mine. My heart was pounding. This was it. This was better than I could have ever imagined. The HOA had destroyed my winter water supply, and I was about to turn off theirs. The first thing I did was hire a top-notch property rights attorney. I didn't want to make a single misstep. We drafted a cease and desist letter, along with a formal notice of termination of access to my water resources. We sent it, certified mail, to every member of the HOA board. The letter detailed my legal ownership of the water rights and stated that due to the HOA's recent hostile actions and destruction of my personal property, their implied permissive use of my water was hereby revoked. They had 72 hours to either negotiate a formal leasing agreement or all water access originating from my property would be shut off. The silence was deafening. I'm sure Karen thought it was a bluff. 72 hours passed. Nothing. Not a call. Not an email. So, I made the call. I contacted a plumbing and excavation company, the same one my lawyer recommended. The next morning, a bright yellow backhoe rolled up to the edge of my property line, right where the main water pipe branched off to supply the rest of the neighborhood. The crew got to work, legally installing a new main shutoff valve, entirely on my land. It was a Tuesday morning when I turned the valve. The first sign something was wrong was when the sprinklers for the community's award-winning rose garden sputtered and died. Then, the grand fountain at the neighborhood entrance dried up. Phone calls started flooding the HOA office. People's water pressure was dropping for their lawns, and the community pool's filling system shut down. It didn't affect the residential water supply, which came from a different municipal source, but it completely shut down every single one of the HOA's precious, pristinely maintained common areas. The lush green lawns they find people over were about to turn brown. Suddenly my phone wouldn't stop ringing. It was Karen. Her voice, usually so arrogant, was now a high-pitched squeak of panic. "What have you done? You can't do this." I calmly replied, "I can, And I did. It's my water, Karen. We can discuss a solution, but it will be on my terms. I told her any and all future communications would have to go through my lawyer. The emergency HOA meeting was that night. My lawyer and I walked in, and the room was electric with tension. The board, with Karen looking like she'd swallowed a lemon, was finally ready to talk. My lawyer laid out our terms. First, full and immediate reimbursement for all my destroyed property, valued at over $5,000. Second, the complete removal of the violation notice and the cleanup fee from my record. Third, a formal written apology from the entire HOA board, to be published in the community newsletter. And finally, the big one, a long-term water lease agreement. They had no choice. They agreed to everything. The HOA had to pay me for my destroyed supplies, plus a significant annual fee to lease the water rights from me. The money from the lease more than covers my property taxes every year, with plenty left over. The best part, the terms of the lease state that if the HOA ever violates our agreement or engages in any retaliatory action against me, the water gets shut off again, permanently. Karen was so humiliated she resigned as president a week later and sold her house within 6 months. The new HOA board treats me with a certain respect. They leave me completely alone. And every winter I build my stockpile, bigger and better than before, knowing my family is safe and that my water rights are the ultimate insurance policy. So, a word of advice. Always read the fine print when you buy a house. You never know what hidden power you might be sitting on. Thanks for watching my story. If you enjoyed this little tale of HOA justice, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. See you next time.